Dear viewers, in the aftermath of the tragic crash of Air India Flight 171, one finding has captured the headlines, and especially the social media, that both fuel cutoff switches were turned off, suggesting that this was possibly action of one of the pilots. I strongly believe that the pilot did not cut the engines. Here I am going to play the devil's advocate and share with you my arguments. Please watch till the end to benefit from this academic exercise. Right at the outset, let me express my appreciation that the preliminary report released by the Ministry of Civil Aviation of India is a highly professional account of what should have been released at this stage. First of all, preliminary report is not the full story. Secondly, flight data recorder only tells us what happened and not why it happened. Therefore, let's apply simple logic and analyze this storyline. Based on the analysis of the FDR and CVR, the preliminary report outlined that engine 1 and 2 fuel cutoff switches transition from run to cutoff position, one after the other with a time gap of 1 second. Soon after, one of the pilots is heard asking the other, "Why did he cut off?" And the other pilot responded that he did not do so. However, no further details have been provided in the report. We know from the report that co-pilot was the pilot flying and captain was pilot monitoring. However, the report does not explain who said what. Here, let me humbly submit that the investigation has not drawn any conclusions, but the social media investigators have surpassed all limits and passed their verdict of criminal intent of the pilot. Now, let's assume that one of the pilots turned off these switches with a suicidal intent. Then the question arises, who put them back on? If these were put back to run by the same pilot, then the first theory is automatically negated. If these switches were turned on by the other pilot, why this was not followed by some sort of hot argument or a scuffle between both pilots? If one pilot had suicidal intent, why he did not fight back to fulfill his mission? Even the language used in the question and answer does not indicate any criminal intent, rather exhibits expression of startle or surprise of both pilots, which was immediately followed by moving these switches to run position. Also, why didn't the other pilot intervene in time instead of raising a query to the other pilot? Let's not forget that pilots are trained to save lives and not to take risks and endanger lives of others. Therefore, unless clear evidence of mental instability or intention of the pilot is determined, it will be highly irresponsible to assume a deliberate action of criminal intent. Now let's look at another angle where systems can be triggered by mechanical fault, a technical malfunction, unintended action, or even a short circuit. Let's assume that when these switches were moved to run position to start the engines, they did not fully engage the locking click. And as the aircraft lifted off the ground, due to airframe vibrations, these switches inadvertently transitioned to cutoff position. This situation shocked the pilot flying, and he asked the pilot monitoring if he had done it. The captain replied that he did not do so, and immediately moved both switches to run position. This was followed by their combined effort to regain the engine thrust, but they did not have enough time. To conclude, I would like to say that I am highly skeptical of the conclusions being drawn too early, especially when these accusative findings are unfairly tarnishing the reputation of the professional pilots, who can no longer defend themselves. It is premature and indeed too dangerous to blame the pilot solely based on incomplete information. We know that aviation history is full of examples where initial assumptions about pilot error were later overturned by new data, simulations, or deeper analysis. Therefore, I strongly believe that the pilot didn't cut the engines intentionally, and until all evidence is not collected and analyzed, we must avoid jumping to conclusions. Please remember that aviation accidents are highly complex events. They often involve multiple chains of failures, not single events, and time required to solve this puzzle may take months or even years. So please, let's not rush to judgment based on incomplete information or social media speculations, casting undue aspersions on the pilots. Therefore, let the highly professional investigating team do their work and have faith in their findings. Thanks for watching.